Welcome back to another Bali COVID-19 update. This is my no-name channel and I'm Bruce Pullman, and the date today is September 13th, 2020. And so, what are we going to talk about today? Well, first, as always, the numbers, then the no mask pay a fine, the situation in Bali, and following that, I'm going to be looking at what we're doing about opening up, some different ideas about opening up and how to deal with the situation, and finally see what's happening in Jakarta and if that's going to affect us. Okay, so let's get started. And numbers, still high, not good. They're going up all the time. Yesterday, 135 new cases. We now have 7,113 cases in Bali, 5,593 recovered, 168 deaths. You remember when we had 2 deaths? Doesn't seem that long ago. And 1,352 active cases. So our active cases have gone way up over 1,000 now. And we are going down. The trend was down. Now, this has happened since we've opened up for domestic tourism. Has that had any effect on what's going on here? I don't know. Is it a coincidence that the numbers have gone up since domestic tourism has opened up? I don't know. Out of our 135 cases yesterday, 133 were local transmissions. That means people on the island. And 3 were domestic imports. And so those cases can include foreigners. When I say local, it does not just mean Indonesians. Foreigners are included. So, for example, if I get COVID-19, I'm counted as a local case, a local transmission. And there was reports of some foreigners being tested positive down in the south. And that was on Jackie Pomeroy's COVID-19 site. You can see down below the Facebook group. And so, where are the cases? Okay, let's look at my favorite map. And yesterday, Denpasar, 33 cases. Badung 25 and Karangasem 21. And Buluang was not in the top 3 for once. Good for us, although we were listed as a red zone because of the high number of cases we've had recently. And land travel is still open. People can still go around the island. And some places are open, some places are closed. Some places are working on restricted hours during the day, some alternate days of the week. It really depends on the place, how much action they normally get, how much money they have they got workers still. There's a couple that travel around the island and post a new update every day, and they go to different places. And so here's a link to their YouTube site. If you want to take a look at that, they go from place to place. They stop at restaurants, have a coffee, stay in a hotel, swim in a pool. That gives you an idea of what's happening from day to day, what's open, what's closed. If you want to go to Lombok, you can go to Lombok. You do have to be tested. There are some procedures, and you can see those on the Bali COVID-19 Facebook group listed down below. And apparently Komodo is open as well. Okay. And what about nationally? Nationally, 3,806 cases yesterday. So this is not going away in Indonesia. It's going up everywhere. 214,746 total cases and 8,650 deaths. So things are not good here. So let's take a look at what's happening in terms of the mask issue. So the last video, I was talking about you have to wear a mask or you're going to pay a fine, and I talked about that. And so what's happened, that started on this past Monday, so almost a week ago, 6 days ago, and police and military were out checking people to make sure they were wearing masks. They were pulling people over that weren't wearing masks. They were pulling people over in cars. They were pulling people over on motorcycles. They were pulling people over that were walking down the street. So if you didn't have a mask on and you were in the area where they're doing their razzia is they kind of just set up in place, and then they pull everybody over that may be in violation of a rule. And so a couple of different reports, and they're all down below. According to one report, on the first day in the Kuta area, 39 people were stopped. Fines were given to 23 of those. 21 of them were Indonesians and 2 were foreigners. And on another article, and this is the same area, on the first day, out of the 10 foreigners that they had stopped, 8 refused to pay the fine. So they were not wearing a mask. They refused to pay the fine. They were giving the police a hard time, and the police said, "Okay, great. You don't want to pay a fine? Put your name down here. We're going to report you to immigration." Now, if you remember, 3 or 4 videos ago, I had up some images of the requirements for people in terms of staying here with visas, and one of them was you needed to follow the protocols, the safety protocols, health and safety protocols, and if you didn't, you were subject to detention and deportation. And so these 8 idiots, they win the Darwin Award because they may end up being deported because they didn't want to pay the $7 fine, or they refused to wear a mask. And that's the way it goes. If you're here, and I've been saying this over and over and over again, and so have a lot of us that are living here on a permanent basis. You're here, follow the rules. Don't care if you like them or not. Don't care if you're a conspiracy theorist, you want to put your tinfoil hat on. Great. You can say whatever you want to. If you're here, follow the rules. If you don't, they're going to kick you out. That's the way it's going to go. It's happening in other countries around the world too. They're kicking people out that aren't following their rules. So if you're here, follow the rules. Now, this is an interesting one. In Karangasem, the police chief said, our police officers need to be wearing masks because they should be role models for the citizens. And it's a good thing for him to say, because if you see your local cops out wandering around and they're not wearing a mask, and they pull you over for not wearing a mask, well, what are you going to say? Well, you're not wearing a mask, officer. So he said, we have to show people discipline. We have to role model discipline. And so apparently in the mornings when they're going through the procedure before everybody goes out for the day, roll call and the like, there were some people not wearing masks, and police officers not wearing masks, and you can see on the photo, well, the photo here, he assigned them push-ups in order that they start wearing their mask and not being undisciplined. Now, you say, why weren't they fined? Well, do you remember when I was talking about this? There's the fine, there were social sanctions, there were a number of different things that the police could do. And so apparently the police chief decided not to fine them any money, but to make them do push-ups. Is that more effective than fining them? I don't know. I'm not the police chief, but so everybody's getting zapped, and they should. If you're outside, and here's a quote, it said, they think that as long as they ride a car or motorbike, they don't need to wear a mask. Even though the rules are, as long as you leave the house, even though you ride a motorbike or a car, you still have to wear a mask. Don't care if you think it's stupid or not. You do it. My kids do it. I do it. You can do it. Is it a big deal? I'm going to get to how many people, wow, I'm so uncomfortable. And so, yeah, so am I. So what? We'll get to numbers. some more numbers in a little while. So that's that. Okay, so what are we going to do? Things are getting worse here. They're not getting better. How are we going to open up for tourism if things are getting worse? Well, according to a virologist from Udayana University, and he's a professor emeritus at the veterinary faculty, Udayana, he's called for complete quarantine of Bali, a 4-week quarantine. The 4 weeks would be split up into 2 sections, 2-week sections. The first 2 weeks to make sure that everybody that's tested positive becomes negative. The second 2 weeks is to stop the chain of transmission and among the general public. Now, this depends on testing, right? Because he said people that test positive, we have to wait for them to turn negative. But Bali has been under-tested. Indonesia as a whole is under-tested. And so this depends on testing being taken place. Because if you're not testing everybody, you don't know who's got the virus or not. And so the spread continues. This is a tough one to get through. So he says there's no alternative. This is the way we have to go. Now, another professor, a epidemiologist from Udayana, said he had a different approach. He said we don't have to go into a lockdown. We need to increase testing. We need to increase testing so that we know who is sick, and then we need to have more hospital beds so that we can quarantine people, we can take care of the sick people. Testing is the key for us right now. I think they both agree that testing is important, and testing is not happening at the level it should be here, and so that's important. Is there going to be a lockdown again? Are we going to go back into? We never really had a lockdown. We had a kind of a lockdown. The island was closed, and people were told to stay home if they didn't have to go out. But nobody was being sanctioned, really. Well, a few places, some villages wouldn't let you enter if you were an outsider. Are we going to get back into that situation? I don't know. I'm not a mind reader. I can't tell. We'll take a look. I'll talk about this in a minute when I talk about what's going on in Jakarta. Okay, so there's one. Lockdown, more testing. Nobody is saying here, let's open Bali up to international tourism. But editorial in the BaliDiscovery.com website, Jack Daniels' website on business, he's calling for a reopening of international tourism in Bali. And he lists his things, and he says everything is based, that he's deciding is based on science. Now, in the past, he said he was against reopening Bali. He's changed his mind since then. He's thought about the situation, looked at the numbers, and he said that his argument is the virus is here. It's going to stay with us. It's not going to go away. And so we've got to find a way to deal with it. Vaccine, okay, a vaccine may come next year. Now, Trump and some other people are trying to rush this through. It's become a political issue. Are people going to take a vaccine that they think has not been properly vetted? I don't know. I am not an anti-vaxxer. I would take a vaccine, but if they rush through some vaccine without going through the complete test, and there's a possibility that you could get sicker or get something else, I'd be wary about it. And a lot of people I talk to who are not anti-vaxxers, these are not people, the vaccines cause autism people. These are people who take vaccines. They believe that vaccines work. They're also cautious. They're saying, look, boy, they're just rushing through. Everybody's rushing through this. That's great. We want to get this out. But we need to know, is this going to be safe? And so that's what Jack's saying. Who knows? Is the vaccine going to be effective once it's here? How effective is it going to be? Are there going to be side effects? How long is it going to take to immunize the population of Earth to stop the spread of the virus? because as long as people are moving around, this is not going to go away. So this may be with us. I think what Jack's saying here is this thing that could be with us for a long, long time, years and years and years. And so his conclusion is that while we're waiting for this to happen, if Bali stays closed down, the bad situation, and our economy is down almost 11%, it's the worst hit in Indonesia. This situation is going to reach a point economically where there's no return, where we're not going to be able to recover from it. I don't know, that may be a little dire. I'm not an economist, and I can't really tell you. Look at what's happening up north here. Singaraja, as I've said before, has gone on since it started pretty much as normal, but we're an area that is not really dependent on tourism. The last data that I have from 2018, tourism was less than 50% of our local economy. And so Singaraja has continued to work. Now you go over to Lovina and you see a lot of closed places, like I talked about in a other video. You're down south, and I've been looking at these, I think they're called the Monkey Couple or something. I forget their name, but their video. They show you all these places that are closed. So they're going here, and there's over there. They stay at a hotel. They're the only guest. They go to a restaurant. They're the only person there. So yeah, the tourist areas have been hit. And there's an interesting article about this. It's kind of a thought piece. You should read it. It's pretty good. And what it says is we need to listen to the Balinese. And some of the quotes in this are, look, we need to get out. We need to get out of being so dependent on tourism. As bad as things are, I don't want things to go back to the way they were. That's what these Balinese are saying. Don't want things to go back. I don't want the huge traffic jams. I don't want to be dependent on tourism. I don't want foreigners coming here and using Bali as a garbage dump. I don't want crazy people running around acting like idiots. Yeah, we want tourism, but managed tourism. And so I've talked about before about farming, agriculture, and there are agricultural projects going on now around the island, not dependent on tourism. There's the green industrial park, which I need to talk to my son-in-law who's involved in this a little more and find out more about it. I've only seen one article and I can't reference that right now. So there's other things to do, and we're going with domestic tourism 70% to international tourism 30%, and so this is what you're hearing. People that don't want to be dependent, don't want to have their lives dependent on tourism, where something like terrorist activities, the Bali bombings, Mount Agung erupting, the virus, is there going to be another one? How long is this going to last? So there needs to be a more sustainable economy here. This is what local people are saying. I agree completely. Now, according to this editorial, the Bali Discovery editorial, so he says, reopen Bali with strict set of protocols that includes rigorous medical screening at points of entry, mandatory and supervised quarantine for suspected cases of COVID-19, rules prohibiting mass gatherings, closure of bars and nightclubs, more comprehensive application of the certification program for restaurants, hotels, and tourist sites, and enforcement of the mask rule. Okay, so those things sound great. Are they happening? Some, but not completely. There's still gatherings going on all over the island, local and domestic, local and foreign. Foreigners are having, there's a big face painting kind of marketing thing going on today. Okay, hundreds of people gathering. Galungan and Kuningan are coming up in a couple of days. What's going to happen there? Are people going to wear a mask? How many people are going to congregate? This is major ceremony in Bali. So how are we going to deal with that situation? Indonesia has not always been really good on enforcing regulations. You take the helmet regulations. Some places are not enforced at all. Other places they are. Singaraja, yeah. More people in Singaraja wear helmets than any place that I've been in Bali because the cops enforce the rule here. You get down to Ubud, a lot of people don't. And I see people drive right past police, don't have a helmet on, they don't stop them. So it depends on enforcement. So anyway, the editorial says, let's open up. We need to open up and get business going. Personally, I don't think, especially at this time with the numbers increasing, that it's the time to open up. That's my opinion. And what about Jakarta? So in Jakarta, editorial in the Jakarta Post called Doing the Right Thing, down below. And they're applauding the reimposition of large-scale social restrictions in the capital as new cases and deaths continue to rise. And so beginning tomorrow, all workplaces except for essential business are going to be closed. Public activities are not going to be allowed in the capital. And this partial lockdown is based on data and the continuing development of a public health crisis. And the government's afraid that the Jakarta health system may collapse under increasing numbers of cases in Jakarta. And so they're calling for another lockdown. And the editorial noted that the lockdown is bound to fail unless it gets the national government behind it and other regional governments behind it. So President Jokowi has said health should come first, but he wavers. He's not really firm about this. He needs to come out and back, according to this editorial, he needs to come out and back the lockdown and encourage the areas around Jakarta to do it and restrict travel in and out of the capital for a certain period of time. Jakarta has a positivity rate of 12.2% of new cases, and this is more than twice the 5% which is recommended by the World Health Organization. If you don't like the World Health Organization, save your comments. Which is 5% or below, which is recommended for relaxing restrictions. And so what's going to happen? Are other areas around Jakarta going to follow up on this? Is the president going to take a firm stand? I don't know. Let's see what happens. This starts tomorrow. And on a side note, hardly a side note, article below, 109 doctors have died of COVID-19. Those people that say nobody's dying. I don't know anybody that's dead, so it's not happening. I don't know anybody that's got COVID-19, so it's not happening. Really? That's how you base things on? I don't know anybody. I don't know anybody that's a professional baseball player, but I know they exist. 109 doctors, 70 nurses, 8 dentists have died from COVID-19. We're losing our medical professionals. And according to a survey from the University of Illinois School of Medicine, 82% of healthcare workers across the country are working under extreme stress and are suffering from burnout. Is it any wonder what the way the situation is? So, whether or not you agree with any of this, think about other people. This is a case where we all have to work together to get this under control. Your ideas of individual freedom, which, by the way, read your Constitution and history if you're an American and find out what actually that stuff means. This is time to think about the collective, not your violation of my human rights. Think about the collective. Think about those people who are sick, okay, who do have some health problems and who may die. And by the way, people die, including young people who don't have other symptoms. And if you get this, and even if you don't die, oh, well, the recovery rate is, look at some of the stories coming out from people who have recovered and the kind of symptoms and problems that they have, and how long term is this going to be. So, there's Jakarta. They're going to lock down. What's Bali going to do? Are we going to lock down or aren't we going to lock down? Okay, obviously tourism is not opening up at this point, but this is a never say never situation. You can never tell. The government may change their mind. I'm guessing, I'm hoping that they're not going to at this point, but we'll see. And so that's it. Sorry, not real good news. If you want to come to Bali, still no time. No visas are being issued. If you are here, right, you can travel around. Enjoy it while you can in case we go back on restrictions. And if you're here, wear a mask, practice social distancing, follow government rules and regulations. Don't give the cops a hard time. Don't give people that are wearing masks a hard time. And stay safe. Be kind to someone today. Thanks for viewing, and see you next time.